The horizon was a thin line of bruised purple and gold when Officer Sam Calder and his K9, Juno, rolled down the deserted country lane. The fog clung to the fields like a living thing, muffling the world in cold silence. That's when they saw it, a weathered black sedan, parked crookedly at the edge of a cornfield, doors locked, engine cold. From the trunk came a faint, wet sound, like muffled sobs, or worse, the gurgle of something struggling to survive. Sam's stomach turned. He'd seen abandoned cars before, but nothing that left a sound, breathing in the dawn, waiting for someone to notice. If you enjoy atmospheric thrillers like this, consider subscribing. There's more suspense and shocking discoveries just ahead. The early light of dawn bled over the horizon in muted shades of purple and gold, a fragile promise in a sky still heavy with night. Officer Sam Calder sat in his patrol SUV, fog rolling across the cracked asphalt like smoke from a dying fire. His breath fogged the windshield, and he rubbed at it with the back of his sleeve. Juno, his K9 partner, an aging German shepherd with fur mottled gray from years of work, pressed against the passenger seat, ears pricked and nose twitching. There was a tension in the air, one of those moments where the world seemed to hold its breath. The call had been routine, a report of a suspicious vehicle at the edge of the county road, abandoned for hours. Nothing unusual, at least according to dispatch. But the instinct that had kept Sam alive through 15 years on the force was screaming at him now. This was different. As they approached the narrow lane leading to the fields, Sam could see it, a black sedan, weathered and beaten by wind and rain, sitting crookedly among the rows of dying cornstalks. Its dark paint was chipped and dulled, and the tires had sunk slightly into the mud. No lights, no movement. And yet, from the trunk came a faint sound. A wet, irregular gurgle. Sam's gut clenched. He killed the engine, and the SUV went silent except for the soft hiss of fog dripping from the trees. Juno's low growl rolled from deep in her chest, vibrating through the seat. "I heard it too," Sam murmured, more to himself than to anyone else. His hand hovered over his firearm, not because he expected trouble from a lone car, but because his mind refused to rule anything out. Juno's nose twitched. She was already at the door, claws clicking against the metal. The rural silence swallowed their steps as Sam moved around to the trunk. Each footfall pressed into wet earth, leaving a trail that would vanish under the morning mist. He crouched slowly, examining the lock. It was standard, nothing fancy, but the faint sound from within had stopped. Or maybe it had just gone quiet for a moment, like a predator holding its breath. "Juno, stay," he whispered, though the command carried more hope than authority. The dog's ears tilted, but she obeyed, sinking onto her haunches, eyes locked on him like a shadow of his own caution. Sam checked the surrounding fields. No one. No footprints except the ones he was leaving. The cornstalks swayed with a whispering rustle, shadows like skeletal hands reaching for him, urging him away. But curiosity, professional instinct, overpowered fear. He snapped the trunk latch. The smell hit him first, sour, metallic, the unmistakable stench of fear mixed with something else, something decayed. He froze for a heartbeat before wrenching the lid fully open. Inside, a child. No more than 8 or 9, shivering, eyes wide, hair plastered to the scalp with sweat and grime. They were gagged with a strip of cloth, wrists bound by rough twine, and their small frame rocked as they sobbed silently, each breath trembling. Hey, it's okay," Sam said, voice low but urgent. He reached in carefully, trying not to frighten the child further. Juno whined softly, circling behind him, tail stiff but wagging, as if offering her presence as reassurance. The child flinched at the touch, but didn't struggle. There was exhaustion there, something beyond mere captivity, something deep and raw, the kind that burrows into the soul. Sam's mind raced. Who would do this? Why here? In this remote, empty stretch of county road where no one came? He unbound the child's wrists slowly, mumbling reassurances. "You're safe now. I promise." His hands shook, not from fear, but from a growing anger he hadn't let surface in years. He'd seen a lot in his career, but there was a particular horror in seeing innocence trapped, silent but for the occasional wet gasp. Juno leaned forward, sniffing the child's hair, then nudging gently with her snout, letting them know they weren't alone. The child's sobs grew into shaky cries, and Sam could finally breathe. "Let's get you out of here," he said, lifting the trembling form from the trunk. They moved toward the SUV, Sam's grip firm, protective, while Juno trotted beside them. The fog hung thick, masking the car from the approaching road, but Sam knew this place wouldn't remain hidden for long. Back in the vehicle, Sam drove slowly, keeping an eye on the child, who was beginning to calm, leaning into his chest as if instinct recognized safety. The faint light of dawn illuminated the fog-drenched fields, turning them into a surreal landscape, somewhere between dream and nightmare. He called dispatch. "Dispatch, this is Officer Calder. I've got a child, possibly abducted, found in a black sedan at mile marker 17. Requesting immediate backup and EMS." The dispatcher's voice was calm, professional. "Copy that, officer. Units en route. ETA 5 minutes. Sam hung up and glanced at the child. "What's your name, kiddo?" A whisper. "Lila." Lila. Small, fragile, yet something in her eyes suggested she had seen horrors far beyond her years. Sam felt a heavy weight settle on his chest. This wasn't just a rescue. It was a revelation of something deeper, darker, hidden under the surface of this quiet, rural town. And then the sound came again. From behind. From the car they had left abandoned at the field's edge. A faint, wet thump, like something heavy moving inside the trunk once more. Sam's pulse quickened. He hadn't checked for a second occupant. He hadn't dared. The adrenaline surged, pushing all hesitation aside. He killed the engine again, stepping out into the fog with Juno at his side, muscles coiled, ears alert. The car waited, silent as a tomb. He crouched by the trunk again, gun drawn. He noticed something this time. The rear window had a slight condensation smear, like a hand had pressed against it from the inside. "Someone's here," Sam muttered, heart hammering. Juno growled low, the sound vibrating in the misty air, warning him. He pulled the trunk open. Nothing. But then a crumpled piece of paper fluttered to the ground, carried by the wind, landing at Sam's feet. He picked it up. Scrawled in hurried, almost illegible handwriting. "If you find this, look closer. Not everything is what it seems." A chill ran down Sam's spine. He looked at Juno, who tilted her head, sensing something he could not yet see. This was no random abandonment. Someone wanted this car found. Or maybe they wanted him to find it. The sound had stopped, but the warning lingered, heavy in the fog-choked air. Sam's mind raced through possibilities, accomplices, a second child, a trap. His training screamed caution, but another part, the part that had kept him alive for years, urged him forward. He glanced at Lila in the SUV. Her small hands clutched the blanket he had given her. "It's okay," he said again, more to convince himself. "We'll figure it out." A distant siren began to wail, growing louder, cutting through the heavy, oppressive dawn. Backup was near. But even as relief seeped into Sam's bones, unease remained, knotting his stomach. Someone had left a child in the trunk for a reason. And that reason wasn't finished with him yet. The car loomed behind him, black and silent, harboring secrets that were just beginning to surface. Sam knew, with an instinct as sharp as any weapon, that the morning's revelations were only the beginning. He inhaled the damp air, fog swirling around his boots, and stepped back toward the SUV. The world outside felt fragile, unreal. And in the distance, something moved among the cornstalks. He froze. The wail of the approaching sirens faded into the background, swallowed by the thick morning fog. Officer Sam Calder didn't look back at them. The black sedan still sat at the field's edge, its silent, sinister presence pulling at his instincts like a weight in his chest. Lila, small and trembling in the back seat, had clutched the blanket to her chest until her knuckles were white. She hadn't said much since the initial shock, but Sam could feel her tiny body shaking in time with the rhythm of his own heart. He looked down at her, trying to mask his growing anxiety. "You're safe now. I promise." Her dark eyes, wide and wary, flicked up to his. He'll come back, won't he?" Her voice, fragile as frost on a windowpane, struck him harder than anything he'd heard in years. Sam swallowed hard. He wanted to lie. Everyone did in situations like this. But the truth was more complicated. "I don't know," he said honestly, forcing calm into his tone. "But we're going to make sure that if he does, we're ready." Juno growled low, ears pricked, sensing the undercurrent of danger. The German shepherd pressed her weight against the door, tail stiff. Her instincts were sharper than Sam's, and he trusted them implicitly. He opened the driver's side door and motioned for Lila to stay seated while he approached the black sedan once more. Something about the trunk, the locked car, and the cryptic note didn't sit right with him. He moved cautiously, every step sinking slightly into the wet earth. The fog clung to his clothes, wetting the sleeves and matting his hair. He circled the car slowly, scanning the cornfield for movement. Shadows seemed to flicker at the edges of the stalks, teasing the corner of his vision. Every instinct screamed that someone, or something, was out there, watching. Then he heard it, a faint shuffle. He froze, listening. The sound came from the far side of the field, subtle, deliberate. Not wind, not animals. Human. And it was moving closer. Sam's hand went to his firearm, but he kept it low, unwilling to startle whatever it was. Juno stiffened beside him, a low growl emanating from her throat. "Show yourself," Sam called, voice steady but firm. "Now." No response. Only the shifting, scraping rhythm of feet against mud. He moved toward the trunk, trying not to betray the fear curling in his chest. Another shuffle. Then a whisper. Not words, just a sound, like someone breathing through a cloth. Sam crouched, gun trained on the sedan, and slowly cracked the trunk. Nothing. Empty. No movement, no shadow, nothing. But the air smelled differently this time, a metallic tang, faint, almost imperceptible, like blood. He froze, realization dawning. Someone had been here recently. Someone had been watching him. He heard Juno bark sharply, the sound cutting through the fog. Behind him, Lila's small voice quavered, "He's here." Sam spun. A figure emerged from the mist, hunched, wearing a tattered jacket and a hood pulled low. They froze when they saw him, hands raised slightly in surrender, but the look in their eyes, wild, fearful, and angry, made Sam's skin crawl. "Who are you?" Sam demanded, stepping closer. The figure's voice was hoarse, almost a growl. "You shouldn't have found her." Sam's mind raced. "Found who?" "Lila." The figure laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. "The one you rescued. She's just the beginning." Sam's pulse quickened. He motioned for Juno to stay. "Step closer." "Now." The figure hesitated, then slowly approached, eyes darting between him, the SUV, and the cornfield behind. As they drew near, Sam could see the person was young, maybe early 20s, but something about their posture, the tension in their shoulders, and the wildness in their eyes suggested a life hardened by cruelty or desperation. "Name?" Sam pressed. They spat on the ground, mud splashing across the side of the patrol SUV. "Call me Reed." "Reed what?" Sam asked. Reed's eyes flickered with something dark, almost predatory. "Just Reed. And you don't want to get involved." Sam's grip on the gun tightened, knuckles white. "Too late for that." Juno growled low, stepping forward slightly. Reed flinched, but didn't back down. Instead, they took a slow, deliberate step closer, voice dripping with a mixture of warning and menace. "You think saving her means anything? You have no idea what's coming. This isn't just some kid in a trunk. You've opened something you can't close." Sam's blood ran cold. He wanted to laugh at the absurdity, dismiss the cryptic threat, but something in Reed's eyes told him this was no bluff. There was history here, darkness buried deep. The sound came again, behind the car, subtle but unmistakable. Movement. Sam spun toward it, and Juno barked furiously. A shadow flitted through the cornstalks. Something, or someone, was moving with purpose. Reed glanced toward the sound, tension tightening every muscle. "They're close," Reed hissed. "You don't know what you've walked into." Sam's instincts screamed at him to secure Lila first, but curiosity, a dangerous, consuming curiosity, held him rooted. "Who? Who's close?" Reed's lips twisted into a bitter grin. "People you can't trust. People who would kill to keep secrets buried." The sirens grew louder, echoing off the fog-laden fields. Backup was near, but it felt irrelevant. Sam could feel the weight of the unseen eyes in the cornfield, the oppression of a threat he couldn't name. And then it happened. A figure leapt from the shadows, striking at Reed. Sam fired a warning shot, but it was too late. The struggle was violent and chaotic. Juno lunged, teeth bared, snarling, but more figures emerged from the fog, shadows bending unnaturally with their movements, faceless in the haze. Sam dove toward Lila, shielding her from the flurry of motion. Reed was knocked down, struggling under the weight of an unseen assailant. Sam could hear shouts, indistinct, muffled by fog and panic, but nothing made sense. One of the figures lunged at him, and he fired again, the shot echoing like thunder through the empty fields. The figure crumpled. Sam didn't have time to check. They were on him again. "Juno now!" Sam shouted. The dog sprang forward, biting at the nearest attacker. Screams erupted. The fog thickened, turning the cornfield into a labyrinth of shadows and whispered threats. In the chaos, Reed grabbed Sam's arm. "The trunk! The trunk!" they shouted, eyes wild. "They're in there, more than you know." Sam's stomach churned. He remembered the wet sounds, the muffled cries, the metallic smell. Not just Lila. There was more. He turned back to the black sedan. The fog had shifted, the air felt heavier. Sam crouched, unzipping the trunk. The scene inside made his blood run cold. Another child. And another. Dozens of small bodies, hidden and carefully packed. Some alive, some already gone. The stench of decay, of fear, of hopelessness, filled the dawn air. Lila cried out, recognizing them. Sam's heart fractured. He had saved her, but he hadn't saved them all. The realization hit him like a hammer. This was bigger than anything he had imagined. Reed's voice cut through his panic. "They think you'll stop here. They've been planning this for years. You don't know who you're really up against." Sam glanced at the cornfield. Shadows moved. Figures, dozens of them, half seen, whispering, watching, ready to strike again. The fog seemed alive, pressing against him like a predator. Backup arrived moments later, too late to prevent the first chaos, but just in time to stabilize the scene. Officers moved in, securing the area, tending to the children, while Sam tried to process what he had uncovered. Reed slipped away in the confusion, vanishing into the fog. Sam's gut told him this was intentional. They would be back. And they would bring others. Lila clung to him, sobbing softly. Sam's hands trembled as he held her. He had survived years of danger, faced hardened criminals, yet nothing had prepared him for the horror of what he had found, and the knowledge that the threat was far from over. That day in the cornfield, surrounded by mist, shadows, and the cries of the innocent, Sam realized the truth he had been avoiding. Some secrets weren't meant to stay buried. And some monsters were patient, waiting for the right dawn to rise again. The black sedan sat at the edge of the field, silent once more. But the echoes of the trunk's contents, the warning in Reed's eyes, and the memory of the unseen watchers in the cornfield would follow Sam Calder forever. The night had left the cornfield in a haunted silence. Even the fog seemed reluctant to lift, lingering like a specter over the rows of stalks. Officer Sam Calder sat in the patrol SUV, Lila curled against his side, eyes wide and unblinking, staring at nothing. The sun had just begun to pierce the horizon, faint light brushing the mist in cold, silver streaks. His hands were still shaking, the weight of what he had seen pressing deep into his chest. He glanced at the black sedan, now cordoned off by crime scene tape, its secrets exposed but only partially understood. For a moment, he thought about Reed, about the cryptic warning, about the shadows that had moved through the cornfield as if alive. Whoever, or whatever, had orchestrated this had thought decades ahead. And they were not finished. "Sam," a voice called. He turned to see Officer Helen Marks approaching, flashlight in hand, her face pale but composed. "We've got the children secured and EMS on site. Lila's going to be okay." Sam nodded, swallowing hard. "Thanks." His gaze returned to the sedan. The wind whispered through the stalks, carrying the faintest echo of movement, like someone, or something, still watching. Helen hesitated. "You okay? You look exhausted." "I am," Sam admitted. "But this isn't over." He shifted Lila in his arms, brushing a strand of wet hair from her forehead. "Not by a long shot." The night had changed everything, and the revelations were only beginning to unfold. The investigation. By late morning, The county had mobilized a full investigative team. Forensic units swarmed the black sedan, documenting every scrap of evidence. Sam followed the process closely, noting every detail, though the horrors he had witnessed clung to his mind like a persistent shadow. Reed's warning haunted him. "They think you'll stop here. You don't know who you're really up against." Sam had no doubt that Reed was right. He and Juno had uncovered a single node of a larger network, but the roots ran deeper than anyone wanted to admit. The children in the trunk were just a fraction of the victims. Sam's chest tightened at the thought of those who hadn't survived. He didn't allow himself to think too long about the dead, only about how to stop the living. The forensic team recovered small items from the trunk, a torn piece of a diary, strings of numbers, scraps of paper with cryptic symbols. It was methodical, deliberate. Whoever had orchestrated this had planned every detail, accounting for chance, law enforcement, and perhaps even Reed's interference. Sam flipped through the diary, the handwriting jagged and urgent. Names, dates, locations, all hinting at something much larger. He realized then that this was an operation far beyond a single kidnapper, a network, meticulous, patient, and willing to manipulate, intimidate, and kill to maintain control. A betrayal. The calm of investigation shattered when Helen returned, urgency written across her face. "Sam, you need to see this." In her hands was a photograph, taken from a recovered phone in the car. Sam stared, heart hammering. The image showed one of the children, not Lila, being guided into the trunk by a figure in a uniform identical to his own department. A cold wave of disbelief and fury washed over him. "No, he struggled for words. "That's impossible." "Who?" Helen shook her head. "Someone on the inside. Someone we trusted." The revelation hit like a punch. Sam thought of every case he had worked, every suspect he had questioned. He considered Reed, the shadows, the warnings, and realized the truth. The threat was inside the very system meant to protect the innocent. Juno growled low at his side, sensing the turmoil, the danger, the betrayal that hung thick in the air. Sam's mind raced, trying to separate paranoia from reality, truth from lies. He now understood that Reed's warning had been more literal than he could have imagined. The danger wasn't just out there in the cornfield. It was here, within the ranks of law enforcement, hidden behind familiar faces. The hunt for Reed. Reed had disappeared after the chaos in the field, but Sam knew they hadn't gone far. They were careful, calculating. And Sam had learned one key thing. Reed wasn't entirely enemy. They were a mirror, morally gray, neither fully trustworthy nor entirely malevolent, driven by a personal code and a need for revenge. Using the clues from the diary, the scraps of paper, and his instinct honed from years in the force, Sam traced Reed to an abandoned farmhouse on the outskirts of Pine Ridge Hollow. Fog rolled over the roof, curling through broken windows, whispering secrets through the shattered glass. Juno sniffed the air, tense and alert. Sam crouched beside her, gun in hand, every nerve screaming caution. "Stay close," he whispered. Inside, the farmhouse smelled of decay and damp wood. Broken furniture littered the floors, and faint markings on the walls, numbers, symbols, diagrams, suggested meticulous planning. The place had been a command center, abandoned but not forgotten. Sam's heart pounded. Every shadow felt like a predator, every creak echoed with potential death. He found Reed in the attic, hunched over a map pinned to the wall, scribbling notes frantically. They turned as he entered, eyes wide but calculating. "You came," Reed said simply. Sam raised his gun slightly, finger taut. "We need answers." "No." Reed studied him, eyes sharp, wary, and a touch defiant. "You think I'm your enemy? I've been trying to stop them. The network, it's bigger than you know. The people you trust, they're involved. They've been waiting for someone like you to interfere." Sam's chest tightened. "Then why lead me here? Why not stay hidden?" Reed smiled, bitter and thin. "Because some things can't be done alone. And some mistakes need correction." The twist. It was then Sam realized the full horror. On the map, marked with red XS and dates, were not just abductions, they were plans for the coming months. Lila was just the beginning. And the network had infiltrated multiple layers of local enforcement, banking, and even social services. Reed's story began to make sense. They had once been part of the system, a detective like Sam, But after witnessing the corruption, they had gone rogue, working in the shadows to undo what couldn't be confronted openly. Sam felt the weight of betrayal crush him. Years of trust shattered in an instant. And yet, he knew Reed was their only ally if they had any chance of dismantling the network before more children were lost. The confrontation. The farmhouse door burst open. Sam's old partner, Detective Harlan, stepped in, face grim, gun drawn. "Step away from him, Sam." "Why?" Sam demanded. "Harlan, it's you. You're part of this." Harlan's eyes were cold. "It's bigger than you, Sam. Bigger than any one man. Stand down." Sam didn't. He raised his weapon, but Harlan fired first. A shot rang out, ricocheting off the walls. Chaos erupted. Reed moved with precision, subduing Harlan without lethal force, revealing that even within the morally gray, there was restraint, purpose, and clarity of vision. The firefight, brief but intense, ended with Harlan incapacitated. Sam stared at him, rage and betrayal warring with the lingering memories of their years together. Harlan had been loyal once. Now, he was the enemy. The resolution. With Reed's guidance, Sam secured the farmhouse and traced the network's operations. Law enforcement moved carefully, exposing those involved while protecting the children. Lila, safe but traumatized, clung to Sam as they navigated the aftermath. Reed prepared to disappear once more, leaving only the warning behind: "You've only scratched the surface. Trust no one fully. But remember, some monsters can be stopped." Sam watched Reed leave, the morning light finally breaking through the fog. It was a fragile victory, shadowed by loss, betrayal, and the knowledge that evil often hides in plain sight. He looked at Lila, her small hands clutching his sleeve. "It's over for now," he said, voice low, tired but resolute. She nodded, trusting him, relying on him, and in that moment, he understood that even in darkness, the light of protection and courage could endure. As the sun rose fully over Pine Ridge Hollow, Sam Calder and Juno stood by the black sedan, shadows retreating, the fog lifting, but the memory of what had been uncovered, and what had been nearly lost, would haunt him forever. Even as peace seemed restored, he knew the dawn would always carry a warning. Some horrors never truly disappear. They wait. They watch. And sometimes they strike again.